What's going on YouTube? West Hobbies RC. So today we're back with part 8 of the Phoenix Models Spitfire to Reno Racer, one of a kind. So today we are going to get the ESC mounted. We are running Castle Creations ICE 100 8S ESC. Data logging. So we got to solder our XT90s on the end here, which we will do that. Run two XT90s, and we have 4mm bullet connectors on the end here and 3.5s on the motor. So we're going to switch these over to 3.5s, and then we got to figure out what to do with the ESC. We're also going to get the elevator rudder servo mounted, and we are going to get the receiver plate made and receiver and GPS unit mounted. So for ESC wise, what I'm thinking is I'm thinking about cutting the inside of this out here, building a plate, and that will allow me to run the power wires and receiver wire inside the airplane, run them up around the batteries. I can mount the ESC here, long ways, that will let air come over them and give us a nice easy way. If I mount it this way, which I thought about, I won't have enough room for the cowling. Well, maybe I will. So I can either mount it this way or this way. So I'm thinking about doing it this way, which will give it just a nicer look, cleaner look, and our wires will run right inside the airplane where we need them to go. So I'm going to start with tracing this out here, cutting it out, and then building a plate. So after I get the plate built and this cut out, I'll be back. All right, so we cut out this former here, and then we went ahead with some 1/8 inch plywood, and I cut some square blocks. Now this is going to mount like this, and that will allow for the ESC to screw to it. Give us a nice solid mounting point. This is going to get glued here. I'm going to monocoat it black, and then glue, monocoat the top. Don't cover the bottom, of course. Glue it here, and then we can screw our ESC down, and our ESC fits in here just like it should. Wires will run through, and bam, go like that. And then I went ahead and cut this one, another 1/8 inch block, and this one will go in here like this. Of course, we have to put it into place, but anyway, so this one will go here like this, and then we will cover this black as well. We'll drill a hole for the wires to run through, and we'll mount our GPS here and our receiver here, and our satellite will go somewhere back in here. So that'll be for the receiver GPS mount. This is for the ESC mount. So I'm going to go ahead and trim this to fit, cover it black, trim this one, cover it black, and then once I get these mounted, I'll be back. We'll see what it looks like, and we'll start mounting the elevator and rudder servo. Alright, so this is where we're at so far. We have the elevator and rudder servo mounted. We're running, of course, the high-tech 645 MG on the elevator and just a standard HS311 normal servo for the rudder. Really don't need nothing more than that. So we got the plate trimmed and covered, the hole drilled for the servo wires to run through, and then we'll tidy these up. Of course, and now we got our receiver. We are running the 6600T. This is probably my favorite receiver. I run this in everything. I stockpiled these before they were discontinued by Horizon, which is no big shocker there. But the receiver will sit there, just like that. We'll run the antenna through a guide out of the way. It'll probably sit farther back like this. So that way this antenna can be ran out this way. This antenna will go through another guide and be put somewhere else. And then our GPS unit will sit here. So this is our telemetry wire. For flight pack telemetry, this will get soldered into these wires. And then we went ahead and we got the ESC mounted as well. Same thing, 1/8 inch plywood, covered it black, glued it to here, then screwed it through. So now the ESC is not going anywhere. So next is to solder up the XT90s for power and the 4mm bullet connectors to the motor. And then once we get that soldered up, we'll make us a little jumper lead and run our wires up and through here. And that way, oh, the receiver fell out. we'll probably have to add a little extension on these wires, which is no big deal. So that way we can have plenty of room and wire. But that's where we're at so far. So I'm gonna go ahead, get this stuff soldered up, and then I will be back. All right, so this is where we're at so far. We have the receiver put in place. Again, the AR6600T, gotta be my favorite receiver so far. No gyro, I don't like gyros, but that's just me. So we mounted the plate, we covered it black, as you've seen. We drilled a hole, ran our wires through. We still have to tidy these wires up, but right until I make the wing harness to go out of the receiver to the wing, I'm not gonna mess with that yet. Rudder and elevator servo done, what you've seen. Antenna, we'll make little guides. We'll run one over here. We'll run this one through here. And our GPS unit will go here. We still have to tidy up and secure the throttle wire along the side. Went ahead, soldered the ESC up. We have the ESC mounted, as you already seen. Ran the wires long. After we fly it, we get test speed done, and we see if we have the power and performance that we like. I will go ahead and shorten the wires back up to make them look nicer. Right now, they look like a mess. So we'll flip it over here. We have our XT90s. We're running 8S, so we have them in series. And then we put two 6mm bullet connectors here so we can disconnect the harness from here. We have our flight pack voltage soldered in for the telemetry, which will go down here. And then our remote receiver and our GPS unit will plug in there. And then, so I started messing with it and I decided, these are the stock wing bolts and the blind nuts that come out of the airplane. And they are crap. They are off-centered. These little 6mm nylon bolts, they're crap. They went to screw in and I could pull it back out if I wanted to. So, dug through my collection and my stash of bolts. We're gonna put some 1/4-20 metal blind nuts in with some 1/4-20 thumb screws. And these are going to be what replaces these, and we'll have to drill the wing out a little bit because the 1/4-20s are bigger than a 6mm. So we're going to go ahead, get these installed, get the blind nut sunken down, and then we will start working on the wing harness to go from here on the receiver to the wing and get the remote receiver satellite mounted, which is going to go back there probably. And then we'll start with the push rod. So I'll be back once I get these blind nuts installed, and then we start with the wing harness. All right, so here's what's next. We need to glue the tail. We have yet to glue the elevator and rudder into place. So next we have bolted the wing on, it is tightened down. We're gonna take a tape measure. And how you wanna do this, if I can do this one-handed, sorry for shaking the camera all over the place. But you want to measure from wingtip to the back of the stab. So right now we're about 33 3/4, and we want to measure this side. Then we are about 33 3/4. So we're pretty square. I'm going to double check this, of course, but you're going to want to check for squareness from wingtip to elevator. Wingtip to elevator, and then once you get that square, you will go ahead, take your pencil or your marker, and you're going to want to mark the elevator out here. You want to mark it here, and same with rudder. Once you know the rudder is straight, everything is square and straight, which it looks pretty good. I will final check it with the square. We will go ahead, mark this out top and bottom. And then once I get this marked out and make sure everything is square, I will be back to show you a little tip on removing the covering that I like to do. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure this is square. I mean, it's pretty close, but I want to make sure it's perfectly square. I'll mark it out, and then I'll be right back to show you how I like to remove the film without a razor blade. All right, so I got you guys rigged up here. We got the elevator. We have marked it. If you can see here, it's kind of hard to see, but we got a pencil line here and here. We measured, everything was square. We did the same with the rudder. We got a line running across right there and right there. So we'll set the rudder aside. So there's two ways you can do this. A lot of guys will use a regular X-Acto knife, and you run your straight edge ruler here, find your line, and you cut. Now, the problem with that, if you cut too deep, you will cut the covering off, which you have to cut the covering off when you're gluing these joints, but you cut into the wood. And I have seen multiple times when you cut this line and this line, and then you flip the stab over and you cut this line and this line off, and you cut your covering away. Now you have put 1, 2, 3, 4 scores in that wood. And unless you're only going centimeters of an inch through the covering, now you just put a nasty cut through your wood. What happens is, and I've seen it multiple times, when airplanes go into a corner, you're in a turn, you pull up elevator, you yank it, you snap the elevator in half. And I have seen it with my own eyes more times than I want to admit. So what I do, again, back to the wood burner. Take my straight edge. I like to find where my line is, and I go in a few millimeters, and I run my line. And then I come back and I run my line. Okay? And then the same with this side. I like to see where my line is, move in a little bit, and run my... Then I'll come back and just take this line here, and then the same here, but this side we want to go all the way across. So I just freehand this. And of course the bottom is wider than the top. So I just freehand it like this. Flip the elevator over. We're going to do the same on this side. We're going to find our line. Move in a little bit. And cut. Same here. Find our line. Move in a little bit. And we cut. Now, and then come back over here. Little mark. Now, we put our wood burner down. Wood burner. I can't even talk today. And we just pick up our covering. Now we have a perfect, get this here. Now we have a perfect wood showing, no cut into the balsa wood, and we are ready for glue. Now we are done. Our elevator is finished. It's ready to be epoxy. Of course, always use epoxy when you are doing this style of glue joint. I will always use 30 minutes for anything, but I would recommend a minimum of 30-minute epoxy. Now we're gonna take our rudder, same thing. If I don't punch a hole in the airplane. We're gonna take our wood burner. We're gonna find our line. We're gonna move down a little bit, and we are just going to run down the edge. The second pass so we can get it cut. And we are going to flip over and do the second side. Find the line, run down a little bit. Now the reason why I'm moving down a little bit is because if I cut directly to this line, now this line here, this line that I have marked right there is the exact top of the fuselage. So if I was to cut right to that line, you can risk showing a little bit of wood. So I like to move down a little bit so that way you don't see any of the wood. So now we are good to go here. And the same thing, we need to cut the back a little bit. So let's cut this back right here and right here. So now we are ready to peel the covering off. Grab a corner. If I can get the corner, we're gonna grab a corner here. And we should be good to go. It's gonna be difficult with me. Anytime you try to video something, it always is harder than it is. And this is my first time trying to build an airplane and video at the same time. So it's been a little challenging, but I've been figuring it out as I go. So now we just peeled it off like this and we are good to go. So I'll finish peeling that off camera, but you get the idea. So now we have a cover, or we have a rudder that is ready to be glued. So I'm gonna finish peeling the rest of this covering off, and I will be back when we're ready to glue the tail in place. All right, so we're ready to glue the tail. Mixed up my epoxy already. So this is Bob Smith 30 minutes. Make sure, again, you scrape all the edges and you mix your epoxy up really, really good. Always have alcohol and some paper towels ready when you're doing this. So the first thing we're going to do is the elevator. So we're going to go ahead and we're just going to smear some inside of here. It's okay to make a mess. We can come back with some paper towels and rubbing alcohol when we're done. We want to make sure we get a good solid glue joint. Don't be scared to use the epoxy. Use a lot of it. We want a lot of epoxy in here. Just like when we glued the wings together, we want it to splooge out. If the epoxy is not splooging out, we don't have enough. We want to lather it up real good. We'll come back and clean the excess off when we're done. But we need epoxy. This is your glue joint. This is where all the strength is. You need a good glue joint. Make sure your epoxy is mixed properly. We need a good amount of epoxy in here, top and bottom. I'm just running it along the bottom and the top. It's going to be a tight fit, so a lot of epoxy is going to come running out of here, and that is perfectly okay. So we're going to take our elevator now. Have our elevator ready. I marked the top. So we're going to go ahead and we're just going to push it in. And look, you should see some epoxy running out. Push it and keep going. I got a little bit on my finger here. Always keep your fingers clean so you don't get it on the covering where you don't want it. Of course, we can clean it. Push up tight. And now I'm looking and we got it exactly where our marks are. So now we know the elevator is square because we measured. We know we're good. Push it up tight. Now let's take our paper towel, some rubbing alcohol. I got a bunch that ran out on this side. We're just gonna wipe it. Come back again and wipe it. Come back to the other side. We're gonna wipe. Some more rubbing alcohol. Don't be afraid to use your alcohol. This is how you get a clean glue joint. If you noticed, I didn't use any tape. You can use tape if you want to. That is completely and totally up to you. I personally don't. If you just use alcohol and wipe the edges, you won't have to worry about any tape. So we're just going to get this side now. And then we're going to do the rudder. I like to go back and forth. Now, of course, I will go back after I'm done gluing the rudder and make sure all this is clean. So now we're going to take our 30-minute epoxy and we are going to push it down inside where the rudder goes. We're going to push it a lot down in there. We are going to get it everywhere. We want to make sure we have a good amount of epoxy. Again, we want it to splooge out. I'll probably end up using the rest of this epoxy that I mixed up. I got a little bit on the elevator, but I'll wipe that off real quick. And then make sure we get it up here. Get it on the walls. We're just going to take this and get it everywhere. We want it to run. We will clean the excess off when we are done. Take whatever little epoxy we have left. Just pour it down inside here. We'll take our other side, clean this. Now we are done with the rag or the epoxy. We are going to clean the little bit that we got right here. Not a big deal. clean it off, wipe it. Rubbing alcohol makes great fast work of that. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but I have. It drives me nuts when you see an airplane and they epoxy all of it together and they don't wipe it, and it just looks terrible. So we're going to push down. And we got it running out back here, which is what we want. I don't know if you can see that on camera, but we have it running out right there. We're going to push the front down. Good. And there's a couple holes inside that it'll be running out of, which is exactly what we want. We're actually going to move this back a little bit to where it's flush. If you notice here on the back of this rudder, it'll be straight up and down. Now, if you notice this little gap here, that they give you nothing. They just want you to leave it like this. And you can do that. It will be fine. There's nothing structurally wrong with it. But it'll drive me nuts. So we are going to cut a piece of probably 3/8 or 1/4 inch balsa. I don't know yet. I got to measure it. And we will fill that in with some balsa now that we're done epoxying. And we will cover it black. And you won't be able to tell. And we'll do that before we glue the actual rudder on. But now we can glue our elevator hinges, which we'll do after the stab dries so we don't move it around. Grab another paper towel. Let's just go around everything real quick where we got some glue. Let's just get in these corners real good. Let's get this rudder seam. But now our tail is glued. There you have it. Our tail is glued now. So I'm gonna let this dry. I'm not gonna touch it. Our marks still where they're supposed to be. So now I don't have to worry about it being out of alignment. Everything is still the way I measured it. So now I'm gonna let this dry for at least an hour, and then I will cut a piece to go back here, get that done, and we'll start gluing. Make sure everything looks square. So I'm gonna let that dry and I'll be back. All right, so last thing you've seen, we glued the tail. We left it overnight. I like to leave my airplanes for at least 12 hours straight after I glue the tail, so that way nothing can move, hit, knock into it, and throw it out of alignment. So we already went ahead and took the wing back off. We checked to make sure everything was square, and it was, nothing moved. So I went ahead already, off camera. I figured I already did it on the wing, so I didn't need to do it here. We got the control horns all done up. Elevator, rudder, we got the tail wheel done. We glued the hinges already, like you guys seen on the wing part. So everything is free, everything is good to go. This part is done. Now, the next part is doing the push rods. Now I want to show you guys something. Let me lower the camera here for a second. Sorry. Okay, so the ARF comes with this little block. Okay, I don't know if you will focus in on that. Okay, so this is called the splitter block. Now this is designed to take 2 push rods on the outside and 1 in the middle. So they want you to take your 2 elevator halves, run them through to this, and then tighten it down, and then 1 push rod to the servo. Now this to me is garbage. I will not use that on anything. It is junk. You'll have slipping, especially with it being plastic, garbage. So what I do is I run both my push rods, as you can see here. Try to get this closer for you. Both of my push rods are run to the servo. Sorry for the camera shaking around. I'm trying to position this for you guys. All right, so now you can see this. So we have our servo here. We have 2 push rods here. What I will do is I will run one push rod to the outside of the servo horn, the other push rod to the inside hole. You can see I already drilled the holes. So now, when you do this, you'll notice that with geometry, a long servo horn, the farther out the hole is, the more movement you're gonna get. The farther in the hole is, the less movement you're gonna get mechanically setting up your servo travel. So we can't just Z-bend both of these. Now, I always Z-bend all of my push rods. I like Z-bends, never fail. A Z-bend will never fail you. Set screws will. So, let me get a pointer so I can show you what I am talking about. Okay, so we have two push rods here, 1 and 1. So we have an outside hole, we have an inside hole here. I'm gonna run the right elevator to the outside hole, and the left elevator, which is this push rod right here, is gonna go to the one hole on the inside from the out. So it'll be the second hole. Now, with doing that, we're gonna have an issue here. So let me flip the fuselage over. All right, so you can tell here, now we're gonna go back to the holes. We have 5 holes here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We have 5 holes on the control horn. You can see that the right elevator, which is this elevator, is on the outside hole. On the control surface, the farther away you get, the longer the control horn is, the less movement you're going to get. Now, because we are going to the farthest hole on the servo horn, which is going to give us the most movement, we want to go to the farthest hole from the control horn here. This is going to give us the less movement. Now, the other side, we're going to have a problem where if we run this hole here, so I'm trying to get it to focus properly. Let me turn this light off for a second. Okay, that's much better. So, if we run this push rod for the left elevator to the outside hole, and we have it run to the one hole on the servo horn on the inside, the elevator is going to travel uneven from each other, meaning the right elevator will travel higher than the left elevator. So we're going to get an uneven elevator travel. So if you just take this push rod and move it one hole up, so you're going to have this one on the 4th hole, and you'll have your right on the 5th hole. That will give you even elevator travel. Now, that doesn't mean just this airplane. That can be any airplane. So, if you want to bypass that little block that will fail you sooner or later, you can do it this way. So just remember, you're going to run one push rod to your outside hole, or however you want to do it on your holes. I like the outside hole. One push rod to the second hole. And then on the control horn side, the elevator push rod that you run to whatever hole that's on closest to the servo screw, that one will be moved up one hole on the side of the control horn. Hope that makes sense. So now I'm going to go ahead, Z-bend all these push rods, and that will complete the whole tail section of the airplane. And then I will be back, because then we're going to do a power test. And I don't know if I'm going to record it. I might. I don't know. But I'm going to get this done first, and then I'm going to go ahead and do a quick power test. And then we still need to finish covering this bottom part here, and we got to mount the cowling. So I'll probably do the power test off camera, and then I will come back when I'm ready to mount the cowling. So I'll be back. All right, so push rods are done. Rudder, as you can see here, we had to cut the control horn for it to clear the fuselage, but that is done. Z-bended. And elevator. Now, be a little easier to explain this. So we have both of our push rods run to the elevator. Now, the longer your servo horn is, the more travel you are going to get. The shorter your horn is, the less travel you are going to get. So now, if you have one push rod per side of the elevator, and you just run them into your servo horn here, but then you, on your control horn, you put them on the same hole, one surface is going to travel farther than the other surface. So this push rod here is the right elevator. This push rod is the left elevator. So now if we go to our tail, as you can see, this is our left elevator. We are in the second hole. And then if we go to the right elevator, flip the airplane over, we are in the furthest hole. So now when we move our elevator, we get equal travel both ways. If we just put both clevises in the same hole, one elevator side would travel farther than the other elevator side, and you would get uneven travel. But our tail wheel's done. Our elevator's done. No block to fail. I'm a huge fan of Z-bins. They will never fail you. Receiver is mounted. We went ahead and used some double-sided tape to secure the throttle wire. We did already run this. We did a test run with the Power 60 on the 14x14 on 8S. Incredible numbers, so I will go ahead and insert a picture now. So now it is time to mount the cowling. For the cowling, as you've seen, I already pre-drilled my holes, hardwood, everything. Many years ago, me and my grandfather were in Michigan visiting family, and we went to this hobby shop called the Prop Shop. The Prop Shop is in Michigan. There is their website. We picked up a bunch of these packets of these rubber-backed washers. Now, I like to use these on my cowling, especially on nitro airplanes for the vibration. It's not a nitro, but I'm still going to use them. So I'm going to go ahead and use these bigger washers here. They are a metal front with a rubber backing to them. You can see the smaller ones and the bigger ones. I'll be using the bigger ones. They're a rubber washer back made by Madison. I don't know if they have a website, but I'm sure, oh yeah, qualityrcproducts.com. If you guys would like to get these, they make a bunch of different stuff. These are great washers to have for mounting your cowling. Keeps it from cracking the fiberglass and gives it a nice secure location. So we are going to go ahead, throw the cowling on, get that mounted up, throw the spinner and the prop on, and we're almost finished. So I'll be back once I get the cowling and prop mounted. All right, so we got the cowling mounted, we got the prop and spinner on. We got the 14x14 on it now. After the test flights and speed readings and everything are done, I will, if I decide to keep the 14x14, I will paint it black and put some yellow tips on it just to make it look more scale. But I don't know if it's going to keep this prop or not. We may go through 4 or 5 different props. Every time I build an airplane, I go through mini props. So all that's left is the black trim on the wings. We have to make a template, get that done, get the green overlay, and make the wing harness. And this thing will be ready to fly. So this is going to conclude part 8. I have to end the video off here. It's probably going to be 30 minutes. I will try to make it a little shorter. It's just so much stuff to cram into one video. But we have the battery strap put in. We have everything wired up. We still have to tidy all this stuff up. But that will be in the next part, which part 10 or part 9. Yeah, that'll be next. Part 9 will be the finishing stuff. Finishing the black on the wings, doing the wing harness, all that stuff. And then we will be ready to fly this thing. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this little build series. Stay tuned for the next Reno Racer. It'll be coming up right after this one. We're going to do something just as cool, but we're going to have even more power. This thing looks so good. I am so happy with it. The paint came out great. My wife did a fantastic job on all the decals. She killed it. All the covering came out like it should. Oh, we did cover the bottom. But there we go. This is where we're at. The one of a kind is almost ready for its maiden. So thank you guys so much for watching. Take care. Have a great day.